Hey guys, it's Tasha. Welcome to my channel. So for today I'm going to be cutting my son's hair. As you can see, it's really long, and usually I just do like little trims more often, but today I decided to give it a big chop just so that it's going to last a lot longer and that I won't have to do it as often. But I'm honestly kind of sad that I chopped it. I loved his long hair, but I also really love his hair shorter. It looks super cute either way, but I do miss it. I miss his long hair. So anyways, as you can see, I'm just sectioning out the front from the top of the head to behind the ear, and I'm just clipping those away just so that they're out of my way and I can start the haircut. So the biggest thing that I want to say is to make sure that your child is sitting straight. As you're going to see a lot through this video, me constantly trying to get him to sit up, sit straight, have his head straight, have his head up. And that's going to be probably the biggest struggle of cutting a child's hair, is getting them to sit properly so that the hair is as straight and even as possible. So I'm just taking my first section. As you can see, I split the back in half and clipped it up. Now you can do more sections if the hair is even thicker. I'm just doing 2. And then I figured out where I wanted my desired length, and that is where I'm cutting with a little bit of tension, not too much. Yeah, so as you can see, I cut the first piece, and then I'm just continuing on, grabbing a little bit of the section that I just cut, and then taking a little bit of a new section so I can follow the guideline from the previous section that I cut. And you can also see that I sprayed his hair with a little bit of water because his hair was a little bit staticky, so this will just help with that. And because I sprayed it, I'm going to have to make sure that I do the entire cut kind of damp, otherwise it can be different lengths. So if you're going to do it all dry, do it all dry. If you're going to do it all wet, make sure it's all wet so that you get the same length everywhere. And now I'm just checking to make sure it's even on both sides. So you just take a little bit of hair on each side, bring it to the center, making sure it's even. If it's not, you can go back in and take a little bit off wherever you need to. But if it's even, you're going to take down the rest of your section and continue on. Now again, I'm going to squirt it with a little bit of water, just so that it's all the same. And then I'm just going to comb it down, and I'm going to use the section underneath as my guideline. So as you can see the hair that I previously cut underneath. So I'm just going to cut right along the line where I cut the hair from underneath. And I'm going to do that the whole way. And like I mentioned earlier, just make sure they are constantly sitting straight with their head straight. And you might need to take a couple breaks during the haircut because they can get antsy, or they want to like itch, or they want to stand up or move around, or I mean, it's hard for a child to sit still that perfectly for that long. So if they need to take a break here and there, or if you need to give them a snack or whatever you need to do, just let them do it just so you can get through the haircut. And then once you're finished cutting the baseline, you're going to tilt their head down, tell them to look at their toes, and you're going to find what I call the underbelly. Now every haircut you do, there will be an underbelly. This is where there's going to be shorter hairs that will pop out when you tilt their head down, and you want to make sure that you don't forget to do this step. Otherwise, whenever they tilt their head down and they're looking around, you're going to see these shorter hairs popping out of the bottom. Whether it's an adult or a child, this happens, so don't ever forget to do this step. It's very important. Now once you do that, because I just did a one length, I don't want to do any layers or anything because I don't want to take too much bulk out. I just want to take a tiny bit of bulk and do a tiny little bit of point cutting in there just to add a little bit of texture and take a small bit of bulk out. So I'm just going in vertical, taking about a couple little cuts per section that I'm holding up here, as you can see, and that's just going to soften the line a little bit without taking too much out. So I do that for this whole entire section, and then I also do at the end of the haircut go back in and do a little bit more and a little bit of texturizing as well. You want to pay attention to where you're doing this. You're not just going to do it everywhere. You're going to take a second to look and see where it looks the heaviest or where you want a little bit of texture, and you're going to go and do it in those spots where it looks, like I said, the heaviest or the fullest. And I sectioned the top off and did most of it underneath because that's where it's the heaviest, and I want a little bit more movement. So just pay attention to where you're doing that. And yeah, here I can see there was a little bit longer piece on that side, so I just cut that off, and then I'm going to be starting on my next section. Before I start my next section, I just give the whole area just a little bit of a spray, and I play with it with my hands to try and bring in the natural texture of the hair, just so I can see how it falls in its natural form. And then once it all looks good, then I'm going to be starting on my next section. So I take down the front section, and I'm showing you right here, you're going to take a little bit of the back section, and that's going to be your guideline going forward to the side section. So you can see a little bit of section from the back, and I'm just connecting that to my front section, and that's how I know where to cut my length, and that's going to be my guideline. I'm just checking again because he's been moving, so I'm checking again just to make sure, and I need a little more off just to make it even. You can see the back section, and I'm just connecting that to the front to make sure it's all the same length. And then again, the same as you do at the back, you're going to tilt the head down just to get the underbelly out. And you can see right here, I'm just cutting that off, and it makes the world of a difference, so do not forget that step. And then I'm just going to spray it again to just see what it looks like in its natural form, and then I can see if I need to take any bulk out or if anything needs to be evened out. So here it's just I'm going to take a little bit of bulk out by point cutting in there, and then I will be good to start the next side. Following my guide from the back and then continuing that line all the way to the front. As you can see here, the front part around the face, it comes a little longer in the front, so I'm just checking to see if it is even with the other side, and I noticed it's a little bit longer on this side, so I'm just going to take that little corner off at the front there. Now I'm going to be just trimming his bang area. Now his bang area grows a little bit slower than the rest, so I never want to take too much off there. I just want to clean it up and keep it healthy so that it continues to grow, and I always try and keep it long enough so that he can still tuck it behind his ears just to keep it out of his face. So here you can see I'm just angling my fingers and I'm following that shape up as I trim his bang area just to take the little ends off with still giving it a nice shape, and then continuing that on to the bottom of the front section. Once I do that, I'm going to go to the other side. I'm just going to be doing a tiny bit of face framing just to soften the line going down around his face. You have to be very careful when you're cutting that around their face, but he's pretty good, so he's used to it, but be very careful because kids can move and you need to be aware of that. So here, I'm going in with my texturizing shears just to take a little bit more of the bulk in the spots where I feel it's a little tiny bit heavy, and also just to add a little bit of texture. You don't have to do this. You can do just what I showed you earlier with your scissors and the point cutting into the sections, or if you have texturizing shears, you can do a little bit of that here where you feel it needs it, but you don't have to do this. This is just a little bit of an extra step that I take sometimes. Also, if you do want to use texturizing shears and you've never used them before, you have to be very careful with them. Don't just close them completely and chop out a section. You will notice it and it will look bad. Just take little tiny bits at a time and see where you need to do it. Don't just start hacking at it and taking a bunch off because it's not going to look good after. So just take little bits off and take your time. So I'm just spraying it just to give it a little bit of its natural shape. When you cut hair, it always kind of goes into a shock. You like to wet it a little bit and just play with it a little bit just to bring its natural texture back. And as you can see here, it looks super cute and he loves it. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions or comments or anything you want help with, just leave it down in the comments below and I would be happy to help you. Thank you so much for watching my video, guys, and we'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!